My name is Amir, and I've been married to my wife Sanaa for 7 years. We met in college and fell in love quickly. She was kind, funny, and full of life. When I was around her, I felt lucky. We got married soon after finishing our studies, and for many years, everything felt perfect. We bought a small house in the city. I worked as an IT technician, and Sanaa worked in marketing for a clothing brand. We didn't have children yet, but we planned to start a family soon. We laughed a lot, cooked together, went on small weekend trips. It felt like a good life, a quiet, happy life. But slowly, things began to change. It started with small things. Sanaa used to wait for me at dinner, but now she often ate alone. She said she was tired or had a late lunch at work. She used to hug me when I came home from work. Now she barely looked up from her phone. At first, I told myself it was normal. Every relationship changes. People get busy. Work gets stressful. I tried to stay calm. I didn't want to become one of those jealous, controlling husbands. So I gave her space. But the distance between us kept growing. She was always texting, always smiling at her phone. When I walked into the room, she would quickly put it down or turn the screen away. One night, I asked, "Who are you always talking to?" She smiled and said, "Just friend from work. We're working on a new campaign." I nodded. I wanted to believe her. Then came the late nights. She began coming home later and later, saying she had meetings or events. Sometimes, she didn't come home until midnight. I waited up, worried, but she always had an excuse. Once I asked her, "Why didn't you call?" And she got angry. "Why are you always doubting me?" she snapped. That hurt more than I expected. I didn't want to fight. I loved her. I trusted her. Or at least I tried to. But in my heart, something felt wrong. Deep down, I knew she was hiding something. One night, I couldn't sleep. She was next to me, fast asleep, her phone on the nightstand. My hands shook as I picked it up. I knew it was wrong to check someone's phone, but I also knew something wasn't right. What I saw on that screen changed everything. My hands were shaking as I held Sanaa's phone. The room was quiet except for her breathing beside me. She was fast asleep. I felt like a criminal going through her things, but I had to know the truth. My heart was already broken from all the doubts. I needed answers. I opened her WhatsApp. There were many chats from her friends and workmates, but one name stood out to me, David Redhart. My stomach dropped. I didn't know any David. I tapped on the chat. The first message I saw was just 2 days old. "Can't stop thinking about you face blowing a kiss." I scrolled up. There were hundreds of messages, flirty, romantic, and even sexual. My hands went cold as I kept reading. "I miss your touch. Last night was amazing." He has no idea, does he? "When can I see you again, baby?" Photos too. Selfies. Some from her office, some from their dates. One showed them at a restaurant. She was smiling, sitting very close to him. She was wearing the same dress she wore when she said she was at a work meeting. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. I kept reading. The affair had been going on for over 3 months. They met at her office. David was in the marketing team, too. She told him things, secrets, jokes, even private details about me. She called me boring, said I didn't excite her anymore, that I was too safe. I didn't even realize I was crying until a tear dropped onto the screen. I put the phone back and turned away from her. I lay there, staring at the ceiling for the rest of the night. My wife, the woman I trusted, loved, and dreamed of starting a family with, was sleeping next to me after spending her days and nights with someone else. In the morning, I acted normal. She got up, took a shower, made tea. She smiled and asked, "Want anything before I go?" I shook my head. "No, I'm good." She kissed me on the cheek. That same cheek she had probably kissed after being with him. It made me feel sick, but I stayed calm. I knew I had to think carefully. If I exploded now, it would just lead to shouting and lies. I wanted something different, something she would never forget. That day, I didn't go to work. I stayed home and started making a plan. First, I did a little research on David. I found his LinkedIn, Facebook, and even some photos of him with Sanaa at office events. He was tall, confident looking, maybe a few years younger than me. Single, it seemed, like working out, traveling, wine bars, all the things Sanaa had recently started showing interest in too. I printed out a few of their chat screenshots and photos. I didn't know exactly how I would use them yet, but I kept them ready. I also took pictures of her WhatsApp chat from her phone, just in case she tried to delete it later. For the next few days, I pretended everything was fine. I smiled, cooked dinner, even asked how her meetings were going. It was hard, harder than anything I had ever done. But each lie she told me made my decision more clear. I would not shout. I would not cry in front of her. I would show her and him what betrayal really looks like when it's exposed. That's when I made my plan. I would invite David to our house, face to face. Let them both see what happens when you play with someone's heart and think they'll never know. After I found the messages and learned the truth, something inside me changed. I didn't just feel pain. I felt a strange kind of calm, like my heart was tired of breaking and was now cold. I couldn't stop thinking about what they were doing behind my back. The hugs, the kisses, the lies, all while I was cooking her dinner, fixing the sink, planning for our future. But now I had a plan. I would not scream or cry. I would not ask, "Why did you do this to me?" Instead, I would let them destroy themselves, in my house, in front of my eyes. I spent the next few days pretending to be normal. I went to work, came home, smiled at Sanaa, even kissed her goodnight. She had no idea what I knew. She still smiled at her phone, still went out with co-workers, still came home smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. Behind the scenes, I started collecting everything. I took screenshots of all the messages on her phone. I saved voice notes, photos, even a short video of them at a cafe, holding hands. I kept everything backed up on a USB drive and uploaded to a cloud folder. Then I dug deeper into David. His social media told me a lot. He posted gym selfies, wine glasses, and little quotes like, "Live for today. Regret nothing." Funny, he was about to regret everything. I found his email on LinkedIn. Then something interesting happened. He had posted about being a freelance marketing coach. He sometimes helps small businesses build their brand. That gave me an idea. I created a fake email account using a different name. I sent him a message like this. Subject, business help needed. Hi, David. I found your profile on LinkedIn. I run a small clothing shop and am looking for someone to help with online marketing. Would you be open to a quick meeting to discuss ideas? I can host you at my home office this Friday evening. Let me know if you're free. Thanks. Akon. The next morning, he replied, "Hi. Sure, I'd love to help. Friday evening works for me. Please share the address." Perfect. I replied with my real home address. He didn't even realize. Why would he? He didn't know my name, never cared to look. Now it was time to get Sanaa involved. On Thursday night, I told Sanaa, "Let's have a small dinner tomorrow night. Just us and one of my old friends from college. I haven't seen him in years." She looked annoyed for a moment, like she wanted to say no. "Tomorrow? I have something at work." She paused. "Okay, sure. I'll try to be home by 7. That told me everything. She had planned to meet David that evening. Well, she still would, just not the way she expected. Friday came. I cleaned the house like it was a special event. I set the dining table for 3, lit candles, even bought her favorite red wine. I printed out 2 of their messages and placed them in an envelope. I hid the rest of the evidence on my laptop, already open in the living room. At 6:45 p.m., Sanaa came home. She looked surprised to see everything set up so nicely. "You really went all out," she said. I smiled. It's a special night. She changed clothes, freshened up, and sat on the sofa. She seemed nervous. Maybe her sixth sense was telling her something was off. Then the doorbell rang. I walked over slowly and opened it. There he was, David. He smiled and said, "Hi, I'm here to meet Mr. Khan." I stepped aside. "Come in." He walked in and froze. Sanaa turned to look at the guest, and her smile disappeared. Her face turned white. "David?" she said, her voice low and shaky. He looked just as shocked. Sanaa, I walked to the middle of the room and calmly said, looks like everyone knows each other already. There was a long, horrible silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. I sat down slowly and gestured to chairs. Please, sit. Let's have dinner. Neither of them sat. David looked like he wanted to run. Sanaa looked like she had seen a ghost. She spoke first. Amir, I can explain. I held up a hand. Don't. Not yet. Sit. Somehow they listened. David looked down, embarrassed. Sanaa looked everywhere, but at me. I poured 3 glasses of wine and raised mine. To Truth, the guest of honor tonight. Then I slid the envelope across the table. Before we eat, here's something for you both. They opened it. Read the printed messages. Sanaa covered her mouth. David's eyes widened. You knew, she whispered. I nodded. I knew everything. And now, so do both of you. David put the printed messages down on the table. His hands were shaking. Sanaa didn't say anything. She just kept staring at the floor, her face pale, lips slightly open like she was trying to speak, but couldn't. I took a sip of wine and leaned back in my chair. It was quiet, like time had frozen. So, I said calmly, how long have you two been seeing each other behind my back? Neither of them answered. David looked at Sanaa, and Sanaa finally looked at me. Her eyes were full of panic and guilt. Amir, please. I asked a question. I interrupted. My voice was still calm, but there was steel under it. Sanaa swallowed hard. A few months, she whispered. I turned to David. That true? He nodded slowly. Yes, around 3 months. But what? I said, my voice rising slightly. You knew she was married. He nodded again, unable to meet my eyes. She told me. At first, I didn't think it was serious. She said you two were already falling apart. I laughed, a bitter, empty sound. That's what they always say, isn't it? My marriage is already broken. Classic line. Sanaa finally spoke again. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Amir, I was lonely. You were always working, always tired. And that gave you the right to cheat? I snapped. To bring this man into our lives, into our home, even if only through your lies? She looked down again, eyes wet with tears. I leaned forward and stared directly at David. Did you ever think about me? About the husband? The person she promised her life to? He looked ashamed. No, I didn't. I should have. I made a mistake. I shook my head. You didn't make a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or saying something stupid in a fight. This wasn't a mistake. This was a decision made again and again. The air felt heavy. The room was silent, except for the soft sound of the ceiling fan. I stood up slowly, walked over to my laptop, and turned it around so they could see the screen. I've saved everything. I said, all the chats, all the photos, all the proof. I even have a backup in case you think you can just walk away from this and pretend nothing happened. Sanaa stood up, her voice trembling. Amir, please. I know I hurt you. I was wrong. But don't do this. Don't ruin everything. I looked at her, my voice quiet now. I didn't ruin anything, Sanaa. You did. David stood too. Look, man, I'll leave. I didn't come here to hurt you. I didn't know. You didn't care, I said coldly. There's a difference. He picked up his coat. I'm sorry for everything. I nodded toward the door. Get out. Without another word, David left. I stood there, watching him walk out of my house. A stranger who would share my wife's time, her secrets, her body, all while smiling behind my back. Sanaa stayed frozen by the table, tears running down her face. I don't even know who you are anymore, I said softly. The woman I married would have never done this. She took a step forward. I made a mistake, a huge one, but I love you, Amir. I still do. Please, please don't leave me. I laughed again, but this time it was sadder, not angry. Love? You say you love me after 3 months of sneaking around with another man? Do you even know what love means? She wiped her face with her sleeve, but the tears kept coming. I was scared, she said. I thought you didn't care anymore. I felt alone. I felt like you didn't see me. I saw you every day, I said. I just didn't know I was looking at a liar. She fell into the chair, her body shaking. I'll do anything to fix this. Please. I'll quit my job. I'll block him. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever it takes. I stared at her for a long moment. I believe you're sorry, I said, but I also believe that if I hadn't found out, you'd still be doing this. You didn't stop because you felt guilty. You stopped because you got caught. She didn't reply. She just nodded slowly. I walked over the hallway and picked up a small travel bag I had packed earlier. My clothes, my toothbrush, some documents. Enough for a few days. Where are you going? She asked, her voice breaking. Somewhere I can think clearly, I replied. Somewhere without lies. Are you leaving me? She whispered. I looked at her, really looked, and saw not the woman I married, but a stranger who broke my trust. I don't know yet, I said honestly, but tonight I'm leaving this house. She stood up, reaching for me. Please. I stepped back. Don't. Just don't. And with that, I walked out the door. The night air was cool, quiet. It felt like a kind of freedom. I didn't know what would happen next. Maybe we'd talk again. Maybe not. But for the first time in months, I wasn't pretending anymore. The truth was ugly, but at least it was finally out. I didn't sleep much that night. I checked into a small hotel not far from our house. The room was quiet, clean, and cold. I sat on the edge of the bed for hours, staring at the wall, trying to understand how my life had changed so quickly. Just a few days ago, I was still hoping my marriage could be saved. Now I wasn't sure I even wanted it anymore. The pain was heavy, but strangely, I also felt a little lighter. The truth had come out. The lies were no longer hiding in the shadows. And for once, I didn't feel like a fool. In the morning, Sana called. I didn't answer. She sent long messages, apologizing, begging, blaming herself, asking for one more chance. She said she didn't sleep either. She said she had ended things with David for good and was willing to do whatever it takes to fix our marriage. But could it really be fixed? I turned my phone off and spent the rest of the day walking. I needed space to think. I passed by a park where families were playing, children running, parents smiling. I wondered, would we have had a child if this hadn't happened? Would we have been one of those happy families? Or was I just lying to myself all along? I thought about our past, the good days, the way she used to laugh at my jokes, how we'd stay up watching movies on the couch, how we talked about growing old together. It wasn't all fake. I truly believe we loved each other at one point. But love doesn't survive without respect. And Sana had crossed a line she couldn't uncross. Later that evening, I turned my phone back on. More missed calls. More messages. One from her stood out. Please come home. Just talk to me. I know I made the biggest mistake of my life. I don't want to lose you. I didn't reply right away. But I finally agreed to meet her, not at the house, but in a public place. A cafe we used to go to when we were first dating. I thought maybe sitting there in a place full of old memories would help me decide. She was already there when I arrived. Her eyes were red and her face looked tired. She stood up like she wanted to hug me, but stopped when she saw I wasn't going to. Thank you for coming, she said softly. I nodded and sat down. For a while, neither of us said anything. Then she started talking. She told me everything. How the affair began, how it felt exciting at first, how she hated herself after every meeting with him but didn't know how to stop. She admitted that she felt lost, lonely, like something was missing in her life, and instead of talking to me about it, she made the worst choice she could. I take full responsibility, she said. I won't make excuses. I was wrong. I betrayed your trust. But I want to fix this. Amir, I'll go to therapy. I'll leave my job. I'll do anything. I listened to her. I didn't interrupt and I didn't yell. I could see she was truly sorry, maybe even ashamed. But sorry didn't erase the damage. Trust, once broken, doesn't grow back overnight, and sometimes it never does. I looked at her and said calmly, "You broke something inside me. and I don't know if it can be repaired. She nodded slowly. I understand. We sat in silence again. Then I added, I'm not ready to forgive you. I don't know if I ever will. But I need time. Real time. Away from you. Away from this mess. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She wiped them away, but didn't argue. I'll wait, she said, as long as it takes. Even if you decide to walk away forever, I'll accept it. That was the first honest thing I'd heard from her in a long time. I stood up to leave. Take care of yourself, Sanaa. She looked down. You too. As I walked away, I felt a strange mix of sadness and strength. I didn't know what would happen next. Maybe we'd go to counseling. Maybe we'd try again one day. Or maybe this was the end. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was in control of my life again. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to shout. I had done what many couldn't. I stood face to face with betrayal, and I walked away with my head held high. Sometimes walking away is stronger than holding on. And in that moment, I chose myself.